It was an honor for me to work on this case, and to see it turn out such a complete victory. I've never seen a declination letter, which is what this is, so powerful. Mueller put in this thing about he didn't commit a crime, but I can't exonerate him. That is totally unprofessional. You're not supposed to say that. Then Barr and Rosenstein kind of knocked the obstruction thing right out of the park.
That's Rudy Giuliani last night, prime time, sounding off on the Mueller matter as lawmakers on the Hill draw their battle lines in the aftermath. Democrats still calling for investigations and the release of the full report. We may still see that. Republicans demanding Adam Schiff step down as chairman of the House Intel Committee for comments he has made repeatedly. Meanwhile, the political nemesis of the president is facing federal charges today. I want to bring in our headliner, Kellyanne Conway, counsel to the president. Thank you for coming back here, and welcome. We saw the president on camera a couple of times yesterday. Give us a sense in private about what he was talking about, how he was feeling yesterday.
You saw how he was feeling. He invited the press pool in, obviously, to cover Mr. Netanyahu's visit, and you had two availabilities there, and then the Capitals were here in town, a hometown winning team. They're celebrating their Stanley Cup victory from last year. The president is in a great mood, but he's been in a great mood for a very long time because, as he has said for a very long time, there's no collusion. This was a hoax and a witch hunt from the beginning. It really, and I have to say, as the campaign manager for the winning part of the campaign, I resent completely folks tacitly insinuating that some of us would cheat or steal or lie or do anything to cut corners at all other than to beat the woman who lost and shouldn't have lost fairly and squarely. So I noticed a lot in the media are trying to move on to policy now, calling me about health care and drug pricing and the drug crisis and criminal justice reform. And let's talk a little bit about the budget and the economy. That's great, but we've been trying to do that here for the 2+ years we've been here. And in that building behind me, this president has made incredible strides on behalf of the American people. People sort of just go over the economy, gloss over it like it's not important on some of these other networks. It's the most important thing to this country. And there are 157 million Americans working, a higher number than ever before. 58% of the new jobs have gone to women. You have record low unemployment, record growth numbers. This is what people care about. So those who are saying, quote, move on, they want to move on because they feel embarrassed. But look at these Democratic investigators. They don't want to move on. They don't want to get about the bipartisan policy of this country. They're not calling here today to say, let's work on drug pricing, infrastructure, keep this economy humming, workforce development.
So
instead, they're saying, let's continue to investigate.
How does the president want to move on? Obviously, Republicans going on offense here. We saw that press conference with Lindsey Graham yesterday. He wants a second special counsel here. He's calling for investigating how this all began and what was happening inside the DOJ and the FBI to stop President Trump from winning the 2016 election. So has the president spoken with Lindsey Graham? How does the president want to see his party proceed here?
Those on Capitol Hill who are in charge of such investigations will continue forward and will be watching. But in the interest of, quote, transparency and accountability, two watchwords of the last 2+ years, let's see how this all started. Did we have people, in fact, at the top levels of the DOJ and the FBI trying to sit on the scales of justice to try to prevent Donald Trump from being elected president, and after he was elected president, trying to prevent him from taking office, getting that insurance policy, making fun of his voters, sprinkling their venom all over town, unmasking Mike Flynn? Let's see what led to the FISA warrant application being approved. Let's get to the bottom of that phony dossier that got this party started with the DNC and Hillary Clinton funding it, because I'll tell you, those people at the DOJ and the FBI at the time, they have besmirched the good reputations and integrity of the 25,000 to 35,000 men and women who work in that department and do their jobs honorably.
Would you put the former president in that same category? I asked you that because I know you went after Adam Schiff yesterday and you at the leading edge of calling him to step down as head of the House Intel Committee. I don't know if you're going to get your wish on that. James Freeman writes in the Wall Street Journal today about Mueller and the Obama accounting. He says the former president now owes the country an explanation for the historic abuse of government surveillance powers. Do you agree with that assessment?
I think we ought to know what happened in that last administration. And what we do know didn't happen is that the Obama administration and the president himself knew that Russia was trying to interfere in our election and did nothing about it. Why did they do nothing about it? Is it because they were sure Hillary would win, or they didn't want to deal with it in the last months of their administration? And then you get people running roughshod over the justice process at the FBI, trying to rob tens of millions of Americans their rightful voice at the ballot box by sitting on the scales of justice. So sure, let's at least see who did what when, because had she gotten elected, we would never know any of this. This may have been, so we know that no one in the Trump campaign was colluding with Russia, was talking to Russia. But do we know that the FBI, that a couple of bad actors at the FBI and the Department of Justice in the Obama administration, could we say the same about them? Wouldn't it be something if that's really where the collusion, the coordination, and perhaps the conspiracy was happening? But those who want to move on, they got this party started.
Kellyanne,
they had that phony dossier and have gone from there. So let's let it all hang out and let America. We're patient people. We'll be here for the next 6 years. So let's at least take the time so that America gets the full story.
There are growing calls for Adam Schiff to step down from his position as chairman of the Intel Committee in the House. I know you've made a similar call. Do you think that that's a reality, a possibility that could happen?
I made the first call, as far as I know, yesterday morning on your network. It could happen, but he certainly is somebody who loves power and loves to be on TV, there's no doubt. But for this person, given his position, to go on TV hundreds of times, I'm sure, and peddle this lie, and to people never to challenge him. He was on a Sunday show 2 short days ago. And so he's saying that there was, quote, evidence of collusion in plain sight, that he knew of evidence of collusion. Does he know something that Bob Mueller and a 22-month investigation that cost taxpayers over $25 million and resulted in 500 witnesses being interviewed, over 1 million documents being produced, and that had taken on many different chutes and ladders? It began about, quote, collusion and conspiracy with Russians, completely batted down, but it certainly went off in many different areas. And so if he's got evidence of that, put him under oath and let him tell us the evidence. But going on TV and having unfettered access to the media, giving blind quotes and quotes on the record, and then being the intelligence chairman, are we supposed to have faith in his ability to be a nonpartisan arbiter of what is right? And this is somebody who has access to the nation's
Kellyanne,
secrets.
we're running out of time here. Just one last thought on this matter with Michael Avenatti. He was one who put this administration in his crosshairs repeatedly on television. Do you have a thought as to what he is going through in court today in New York and also in California?
Well, I would say one thing about Mr. Avenatti that people quickly forgot, which is that they took him at his word many times, but they particularly took him at his word with this character, Julie Swetnick, who came out as the, quote, third Brett Kavanaugh accuser. And I see a pattern here. Kavanaugh, Covington kids, collusion, conspiracy, coordination. It's just rush to judgment, wishful thinking, imbue credibility on people who otherwise shouldn't have it in that time, place, or manner, because they fit with the narrative. They fit with the goal to get this president to try to embarrass and harass him, his family, those of us closest to him. And that is very irresponsible. And people should do, as I said yesterday, a lot of soul searching. I will tell you, there are a lot of people in media outlets today who are trying to knife each other in the same media outlets. That's going to be really fascinating to watch, because it's saying, I never gave him a platform. I didn't have him on my show. I didn't do that much on collusion. You all did. Guilty, all of the above. But do better next time, because of the patterns, and I've discussed this directly with the president, the patterns to the 2016 election where they all got it so chronically wrong, and instead of saying we're going to do a better job, they dived right into collusion, right into indictments, right into impeachment.
Let's see what happens next.
So let's take a step back, and a deep breath. Thank you very much for having me.
You back. Kellyanne Conway from the North Lawn. Thank you.
This is evidence of willingness to commit collusion. That's what this is on its face.
So let's be clear. What we are seeing and what we have been seeing is collusion in real time.
Yes.
The word collusion is what springs to mind.
I think we have all the proof we need of a scandal that's arguably worse than Watergate.
So that's just a very small sample of what we have heard over the past couple of years. And now that the media hype about Trump-Russia collusion has been disproved, my next guest says that it amounts to one hell of a black eye for the press. Here now, Howie Kurtz, host of Media Buzz and author of Media Madness, Donald Trump, the Press, and the War Over the Truth. Howie, good evening. Great to have you with us this evening. So I guess the question is, how big is the black eye, and is it overcomable? Will we see any change now in terms of fairness?
I've been thinking about this. I'm going to up it to 2 black eyes because the media have been so heavily invested in the Mueller investigation and the notion, or for many the fervent hope, that it could end the Trump presidency, that their news judgment was badly distorted. Now, Martha, I'm not saying that a criminal probe with 37 indictments shouldn't have been covered or that some of the investigative stories weren't accurate, even if it didn't rise to the level of indictable offenses. But the coverage was so massive and nonstop and overwhelmingly negative, and some of the wild commentary, he's convicted, he's a traitor, he's Putin's pawn, some of his family members are going to jail, just have really seriously damaged the profession's credibility.
Yeah, I mean, you have a very scathing piece by Matt Taibbi of Rolling Stone, who is, no cheerleader for the president. That's very clear. You just have to sort of wonder if it changes the tone at all in terms of how the president is looked at, and where that responsibility lies. Do you think that people will trust reporters anymore?
I think half the country already heavily distrusts reporters, and even others who are not necessarily fans of this president have to see how badly this story was overdone, overhyped, and overwrought. Now, do I think this calls for some serious self-examination and soul-searching by the profession? Absolutely. But, some of us who went up against the media tide, and I've been saying and running for 2 years that the story was a little bit out of control in the coverage, you get kind of dismissed as being a cheerleader for Trump. It's never about that. It's about being a cheerleader for fair journalism. But I'm not expecting a lot of self-examination. It's a very insular and kind of defensive profession. Yeah. But, even if you're a liberal, even if you're a journalist who loves the business as I do, you've got to acknowledge that we need to do better.
I think that's absolutely true. Britt Hume said it was one of the worst stains on the media that he had seen in his entire career. That's not an exact verbatim, but that was the sentiment. But today he said at least the New York Times and the Washington Post, both of which have much to answer for in promoting the bogus collusion tale, did not downplay the Mueller findings this morning. And it shows the banner headlines that say Mueller finds no Trump-Russia conspiracy or collusion. So perhaps there's some road to redemption, and we all, nobody stands apart. We all have to be held to the same standards, and we take those standards very seriously. It's interesting that Michael Avenatti sort of came back into the story today as well. Howie, your thoughts on the fact that he was just released on $300,000 bail, we just learned moments ago. Your thoughts on his whole story?
Well, here is a guy who, in a space of 2 months, because he represented Stormy Daniels and therefore was a useful foil against President Trump, was on CNN and MSNBC more than 100 times. I mean, they took this clown seriously, as well as and they indulged his delusion that he was going to run for president, which now seems absolutely ludicrous. Even Stormy Daniels is saying, well, he was extremely dishonest with me. So I think he was a kind of a creature of the anti-Trump fervor, and he became almost, the media kind of built him into a folk hero, looking very differently now. Presumption of innocence, to be sure, but these are serious charges.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't a day when you wouldn't see him on our competitors several times, and was given an enormous
Every couple of hours, I know.
No, it was unbelievable. Howie, thank you very much. Great to see you tonight.